It's the Two Strange Men.
Okay, and we are back with another episode of Two Strange Men.
I was just fiddling with the mic. Sorry about that.
Yeah, oh, that's what you call your pecker.
All right. So
It's got a name Mike. Mine's Roger.
It's less of a mic and more of like a big burp. I don't know where I'm going with that. I don't know.
Mine's Carlotto.
Why are our openings always so bloody weird? Why can't we just go, today, folks, we're doing this?
Yeah, today we're fiddling with our peckers.
That's every other day.
That's when we're not recording a podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, like, you know, you have to, don't you? Because
fiddle with your pecker?
Well, yeah, you do, because of, you know, like, you've got to check for lumps, haven't you? Yeah, we're getting to a certain age, aren't we? And so, like, there's nothing sexual, nothing weird going on there, everyone, okay? You just have to do
So if I'm rifling through my drawers in the middle of a podcast, just know it is a medical intervention that I'm doing right now.
Yeah. And, you know, and if we need to check our prostates as well, and you hear a sort of noise... Then,
and
you know...
because we're friends, we do it to each other.
There you go. You can't admit that now.
Episode 10, baby!
Everyone knows.
Prostate down.
Okay, all right. So, what are we talking about this week?
Well, we are going to talk about frogs.
Yeah.
In almost every iteration. Yeah, in and out. But before we go to Amphibian Town...
Yeah.
I've bought you a gift.
Oh, okay.
It's the 10th episode.
Yeah.
And you're staring at it right now.
Oh, yeah, I am.
What have I bought you, Cal?
So, give it some context. So, it's a Dairyly Snackers box. And why have you brought that for me?
So, at episode 1,
yeah,
I brung in this
to
eat, which you, said, why have you done that? It's a crunchy snack.
It's a fucking podcast. Why are you sitting here munching biscuits? First episode, not exactly a good impression.
No. But obviously my wit, humour, charisma won you over.
Absolutely.
And at the end, we made the most disgusting cheesecake I've ever eaten in my life.
It was absolutely fine.
And you were fine with it.
Yeah.
So to commemorate our 10th episode together, 10 weeks doing this every single week without fail.
Yep.
Because we are tryhards. Commemorating it with Dairyly Dunker.
Oh, thank you very much. It's the thought that counts, isn't it? And also, just so that you're not leaving empty-handed... Okay.
Oh, it is for me.
Because this episode is about frogs, I have brought in a dairy milk Freddo. And for anyone from America or anyone else that's listening, it is literally just a hunk of chocolate shaped like a frog. And everyone in UK knows what a Freddo bar is. Okay, so I will accept your gift of a Dairyly snacker, and I will exchange my Freddo bar.
This is kind of perfect, right? Because the last thing that we watched was Hell Comes to Frogtown, right?
Yeah.
It's like this post-apocalyptic world.
Yeah.
That is a post-apocalyptic trade right there. We've just, no need for money, we've just done a post-apocalyptic trade.
Oh, mate, just think about it, okay? In a post-apocalypse, okay, the first thing that's going is chocolate. All right, that shit's going to be nommed away. Like, none of that left.
Well, if you go back to kind of like ancient sort of like Peru, and the cocoa bean was used as like an elixir of life, right? It might just go back to that and it just being like ground into a juice and used as an elixir of life. Yeah.
Or we'll find alternative ways of creating chocolate, like synthesizing out of our own shit.
Nice. Shall we move on? For the love of all frogs.
Yeah, okay, we'll talk about frogs. Okay, so here's frog fact number 1. It's coming at you, okay? Currently, there are approximately 7,600 known species of frogs thriving across the globe.
Boom.
That's amazing, isn't it? It's an astonishing number, and it underscores the incredible diversity within the amphibian world. It's a figure that's constantly in flux as scientists continue to discover and classify new frog species. Yeah, I have to say, okay, just getting into this, all right, you see me knocking around with my little enamel badges on my name card and everything like that on my ID lanyard. I love frogs. I'm a man who likes frogs.
You do?
Yeah.
You have a really vivid frog t-shirt shirt thing. If anything, it's like to go, what's Carl like in person, Tom? How many fans? I go, he's a frog man.
Yeah. I'm always on I'm always on Reddit.
Yeah. Can I throw in something else that's quite interesting?
Yeah, okay.
And it just goes to show how diverse like frogs are in the world. A frogman. Do you know what a frogman is?
We saw a lot of those in Hell Comes to Frogtown.
So not an anthropomorphic frog. A frogman is a term for someone who's trained in scuba diving.
Oh, I know that. Yeah. And they have them in the army and stuff, and they do things like they, go underwater and things like that to infiltrate enemy compounds and stuff, much like in the game Commandos.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so even
game.
even as sophisticated humans, we want to be frogs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and they also trained dolphins to do something. I don't know. There's something.
Is that real?
Yeah, they definitely train dolphins. I think the way it doesn't become real is if you try to put lasers on sharks. Then that's like unreality.
This is now a good time to remind people of the disclaimer that we have at the end of every episode.
Yeah. Some of this is true. Some of this is not true. But also, like that figure of how many frogs there are in the world, truth is on a constant state of flux.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there you go. All right, okay. So, now I've got some interesting frog facts, but also I've kind of focused more on culture and religion and myth and stuff like that because that's my thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas I've looked at the evolutionary process of the frog, kind of where it came from, and like where we are today.
Wonderful. Good stuff. Okay, so let's just jump into it. Like, there's not really any sort of like, I guess, structure to this. Let's just jump in, all right?
Yeah.
Hecate. I'm not saying
Hecate.
fuck it. I'm saying Hecate, who is the frog god of Egypt. Okay? I'll just...
Going straight there.
Straight in. Yeah. Okay, so it's a prominent, like, godlike person within culture, I would say, compared to other sort of like frog gods and other such things. Okay, so the fertility goddess Hecate was associated explicitly with the last stages of the flooding of the Nile, and so with the germination of corn she became associated with the final stages of childbirth. Yeah, and you can actually see this sort of like link to like frog gods and stuff and flooding, water, rain, and stuff like that. You've got the idea of the not the flooding, but the trials of Pharaoh and Moses.
Yeah.
And
all the frogs kind
the
of
raining frogs and stuff like that. That was how, because you've got the link to fertility of the soil and water being so important for that. You essentially get that then attached to not only the growing of wheat and stuff, but also the growing of children in the belly.
Oh, yes, okay.
Yeah, so it's quite interesting with that, and that's the only sort of link. Like, there's a potential that the Egyptians would have witnessed all of the frogs coming out of hibernation. So, frogs, like a lot of these frogs that we ended up like looking at, like during our research, you can see that they've got like these amazing physical characteristics. They literally like live in the mud. They bury themselves alive, sort of thing, to do things like sleep and hibernate and other such things like that. So the Egyptians would have seen, after the flooding and stuff like that, they would have seen out of the almost primordial soup sludgy mud of the river, they would see these frogs in
noise.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. And alongside that, Hecate is then sort of linked to not only the idea of birth, but hastening birth. So to ensure that you would have like an easy sort of birth, you would have a little old worship to Hecate. You would have like frog amulets and things like that, much like I do, knocking around with my frog amulets and stuff. I'm always trying to give birth to a massive shit. That's why.
I mean, I wasn't going to say anything.
I'm constantly holding my back. So, oh, Tom, there's another one coming.
Come on, Hecate, let's
go. But yeah, so she's actually linked very closely to the Osiris myth, probably the most prominent like Egyptian god, I would say. So during the resurrection myth, so you've got Osiris and the resurrection of Osiris into the new body of Horus at birth. And Hecate was there essentially, I don't know, cheerleading or something like that. She had a very sort of prominent role in that sort
Frog
of thing.
pom-poms and all.
Yeah, that's it. So yeah, like alongside the idea of birth, she was also associated with resurrection and stuff like that. And then, you know, she's then got a link to, I guess, like the idea of like life, death deities and stuff like that often come up in the things that we talk about. Horus, you know, Jesus Christ, that sort of thing, you know. Lots of interesting things there. So yeah, Hecate, my first god to talk about, you know. There's not actually too much about them. They're kind of like a supporting role compared to some of these other gods like Set, Horus, Osiris, that sort of thing. Like probably have like more prominent stories.
B tier god.
B tier god, definitely. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, that's a good way of saying it. But yeah, this kind of like made me start thinking about the reproductive strategies of frogs and how interesting that is.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to go into next. I'll give you one of these and then I'll let you interject. But so the Suriname toad, okay?
Yeah.
Know anything about the Suriname toad? You met them?
Not personally. I've heard good things.
You heard good things. Yeah, they're top toads, all right?
Yeah.
You know, you'd invite these toads around to see your mum. But essentially, like what the females do is they give birth to all the little tadpoles, or as I like to call them affectionately, taddies, right?
Tadders, yeah.
Yeah, tadders, yeah. Put those tadders on their back, and the skin grows around the tadders, right? And then the frogs eventually come out. I kind of feel like it's probably like popping of a spot or something like that. The frog comes out. But yeah, you're saying okay. Fuck you, okay? You give me a fact.
Well, I can't even. It's just super interesting because when I was looking at research for this episode, one thing always jumps out, and it's that frogs are in so much mythos and so many different cultures and religions all around the world, and that's because they've been around for so long.
Yeah.
So frogs evolved from the lobe-finned fish around 180 to 215 million years ago, and then kind of diversified after the extinction of dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Around 66 million years ago. So there has been some form of like frog-like species.
Yeah.
For hundreds of millions of years, and we can't even conceptualize that as.
Well, I know it's mental, isn't it? It's mental to think about it.
And so we're going all the way back to the Triassic period.
Yeah.
You know, where we have the likes of the proto frog, which is the most commonly linked kind of early frog, and as early as 250 million years ago.
Mental, isn't it? It's unfathomable amount of time. It's crazy, isn't it? But like, you know, there's certain types of species that just have this amazing variety, and frogs is one of them. Where
we always think of kind of like deeper aquatic life, kind of, you know, early lizards and crocodiles and stuff being kind of that early genesis, and we don't always think of frogs, do we? We don't always think of amphibians, but they were day dot.
Absolutely.
They were early adapters.
Yeah. They're like insects.
The first YouTubers, they were right there.
So you know, you've got like very early sort of insects and stuff like that, and you've got like things like the massive variety of spiders that there are, or something as simple as like there's a stupid amount of varieties of orchid. You know, like there's just certain things just are able to diversify really well, and then you've just got all of these amazing stories about the different ones and the ways in which they've adapted to like different like situations and stuff like that. And you know, like one thing is like what makes a frog so well adaptable to these sort of environments that you can get these offshoots and stuff like that, and all of these like interesting things going on. I think a lot of it, and a lot of survival, you know, and the idea of a species being something that works well and like stays, like, do you know what I mean? It's not like the dodo bird, do you know what I mean? It's an example of something that just doesn't work, you know. but I guess that's because of man's like involvement. They were fine before.
But also, frogs are super adaptable, right? They are land creatures and water creatures.
Yeah. That's the adaptability. Yeah, it's definitely part of it. But I think what they do that maybe birds don't, or do to a certain extent, but not to the level of frogs, is just give birth to the most ginormous brood
Yeah.
of offspring, like, available. You know what I mean? It's a strategy that works. Essentially, what they're basically saying is, like, our strategy, like, you might like, you know, want to only feed one of yours or whatever, and hopefully that's going to work out and stuff like that. You know, birds, they even, like, kill off some of the weaker ones because, like,
Yeah.
But, like, with frogs, it's literally, well, we're just going to lay out a buffet for predators and hope that they're going to get so full that some of our frogs will survive.
Like, we're going to have 90 kids, George.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 of those are going to be adults.
Yeah, that's it.
I don't know why the frog's called George.
Yeah, it's George the Frog. Yeah, it's absolutely fine. But, like, you know, it's interesting. And then alongside that, there are other ways in which frogs have, like, evolved beyond that just general buffet sort of strategy. So there's one frog that's now believed to be extinct. It's a gastric brooding frog of Australia. Okay, Rheobatrachus silus, if you will. Essentially, the female would swallow her fertilized eggs and suppress her stomach acid and brood the young in her stomach. Interesting, eh?
Very similar to the frog you were talking about earlier.
Absolutely. If we did that, we could give birth to our children ourselves, like Arnold Schwarzenegger Jr. style, couldn't we? Yeah, like the wife sort of, like, gives birth to it first, maybe, and then we just sort of, like,
pop it in like a little tablet.
Yeah, like, but it's not like a tablet, is it? It all depends on what point in time you would, like, you know, give birth to something.
Do you reckon it would start as like a little, like an egg you'd buy from the shop, or do you look like a quail egg? Like, what size egg am I putting in my throat?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
or am I popping up my bum like a repository? Like, how is this working? I need answers.
I mean, that would good. That'd be good. Instead of suppressing our stomach acid, we could be suppressing all our poop, and then, like, the thing sort of crawls in. Like,
it crawls in.
Yeah, you know, like a kangaroo, right?
Like a baby already.
A kangaroo, like, it comes out, doesn't it? And it climbs into the pouch, doesn't it? But it comes out as like a little fetus, doesn't it?
Have you got confused? You think we're doing Mad God today? These are very similar visuals.
Yeah, I mean, like, okay, all right, maybe not. I don't know.
I'd rather not do
Look,
that.
I'm gonna.
There's a way for our species to go. Rather not do that.
I'm gonna shop this idea anyway to some scientists at Cambridge, okay, and we'll see what they have to say. All right.
Or we could just forget this segment ever happened.
Okay. All right. Okay. So yeah, like, interesting. You've got fertility god there, and you've got, like, such an interesting sort of, like, way in which these frogs will reproduce and things like that.
I'd like to know why they're extinct compared to other frogs. Was it this process that it was just because it wasn't as readily available to have, like, you know, hundreds of kids or hundreds of tadpoles at once?
If you think about, like, frog spawn, right, and it's an absolute smorgasbord buffet, isn't it, in the pond, right? It's not going to fit in a frog's stomach. No. Otherwise, they're going to be, like, ballooned up, sort of thing, like a common rain frog. I've got a little picture of it. How cute is that?
You bloody love frogs, don't you? Like, it's in your being.
I don't know why.
Are you just going to take the mask off one day? Like, Tom, I'm a frog. Are we still friends?
Yeah, maybe. If that mask does exist, I still haven't taken it off yet. Okay. I believe that I am a human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how deep in the psychosis you are.
I haven't ever eaten a fly.
Okay.
Okay, but
would you like to?
No. But I once screamed at a fly so loud that it just died.
Is that true?
It is true. It was on the table. I screamed at it, and it just sort of did a flip over.
What was the context of that? What were you screaming at it?
I mean, I was, like, you know, a rambunctious youth. I thought I'd try that out.
Ow.
It's a science experiment. It's just like the loudest noise you could make. See what happens. And yeah, it just, like, popped its clogs right there and then.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say to that.
I mean, look, it's a science experiment that had a good conclusion to it. Like, you just do that, don't you? Anyway, moving on. All right. So, Chak, okay, is the Mayan god of rain.
Okay.
Okay. And also, held a significant importance to the ancient Mayan culture. He was worshipped for his role in agriculture and water, and Shaq was revered as a life-giving deity represented in various forms. He's depicted with jade axes and serpents, capable of generating rainfall. Okay, very similar how Shaq is to Hecate there. Yeah. So he held immense significance as the god of rain, and they revered Shaq for his ability to bring a much-needed rainfall that sustained their crops and supported their agricultural practices. Yeah, you've got a few sort of like American, South and North American cultures and things like that had rain dances.
Yes.
Very prominent with the worship of Shaq is the idea of doing the old rain dance just to make sure that you've got your rain coming down.
Well, those nations lived and died by droughts, right? So that god is not a B tier god.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, S tier god right there.
Yeah.
100%. He's up there with Quetzalcoatl or whatever it's called.
Yeah. Are we ever going to do a god tier list?
A god tier list? I mean, there's just so many. I think you have to switch that out to Nordic god tier list.
We're getting meta at this bitch.
Okay, all right, go on.
That's a Patreon episode waiting to happen.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Let's just fucking do it. Yeah. Anyway, give me a fact. Go on, fact me.
Okay, so
fact me hard.
Let me consult my notes to fact you so hard. Actually, shall we do something a bit fun?
Yeah. Okay.
I'm all about fun here.
Yeah.
I like looking at all of this stuff and seeing modern interpretations of this.
Yeah.
And most of the time, what I like to do is I'm a D&D player. I'm also a DM.
Yeah.
Surprise to nobody that knows me. It's very stereotypical.
I am not a D&D player, as in, like, I'm not like a footballer. Do you know what I mean? I'm not like in the sport, but I have played D&D and I've also DM'd several times as well. Yeah.
Well, I'm fully in.
You're fully in.
I'm a nerd. I'm twizzling my nipples at a D&D, guys. you get what I mean.
Absolutely.
Really enjoy it.
Yeah.
And as soon as we were looking at frogs, the first thing that came into my head was D&D. Bullywugs, yes. Exactly. And they are like a primitive race of frog-like humanoids, and they're found all over like the D&D, the different D&D worlds, and Planescape, and all these different D&D games all have a version of bullywugs.
Yes, yeah. They're very prominent, aren't they?
Yes.
But before you continue, tell us more about the bullywug. Can I just say the bullywug was literally, so I'm on my first game that I'm preparing, as the games master, as the dungeon master, I saw those bullywugs and I was like, right, okay, I'm going to use them as my starting sort of like challenge, you know, just to get my characters up a couple of levels. We're just going to have a bit of fodder, they can play around with stuff. And since then, any game I've DM'd features bullywugs. And I think the bullywugs actually kind of brought my love of frogs to the surface.
You've got such a hard on for frogs. This is embarrassing to be saying.
Last episode it was wrestling. Now it's frogs.
Yeah, imagine a show where anthropomorphic frogs just wrestle. You'd be like, "This is media. Come home." Was it Europhon?
Yeah. Aerion, that's it. Yeah. All right, go on, carry on. Bullywug.
Yes, so they've been established in D&D since I believe the first edition. So they've always kind of featured. And what's really interesting is why I want to speak about them is they kind of ape our own relationship with frogs. In the fact that they have kind of their own society, they have their own rules, and they have their own religions, and some of those religions are very tied to our own, and some of the more prominent kind of religions, you've mentioned ancient Egypt, but almost every kind of religion or mythos features frogs in some way, and antiquity had frogs up the wazoo. The Greeks and Romans associated it again with fertility and harmony.
Yeah.
The medieval Christian traditions represented it as righteous, but also sinful congregations as well. So that there was that juxtaposition there for the Christian faith. And then, really strangely, with kind of medieval coming out of the medieval period into Victorian period, we started to associate frogs with witchcraft, and this is kind of where we start to see the parallels between frogs being used for love and love potions, but also frogs being used for poison. And this idea of tragedy, and tragedy comes into play. In fact, I think frogs feature in some of Shakespeare's work.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So you've got the Hubble Bubble Toil and Trouble stuff. Guaranteed there's frogs in there, because a lot of the idea of what we imagine like frogs to be, sorry, not frogs, witches to be, and like all over a cauldron and stuff like that, it comes directly from those Shakespeare scenes, doesn't it? And yeah, you know, Eye of Newt and other such shit like that, you know, whack a frog leg in there as well, because it's all dirty and slimy, isn't it? You know, but yeah, like there's absolutely loads to kind of uncover there. I'm going to at some point in time like talk about like the Christianity side of things. I think it's really interesting how it's sort of gone in and out of Christianity. I just wanted to just finish up what I was talking about that Mayan god Chuck, because I found another interesting thing about Chuck is the fact that you have a point in time very, very recently where in a Mexican coastal city, just for the tourists, I guess, and stuff like that, they erected on the beach a sort of giant statue of Poseidon, the Greek god of the sea, etc.
Interesting.
And what actually happened was the people there, the Mexicans and stuff, who would have like Mayan like ancestry and stuff like that, or just general like Yucatan ancestry. I don't know the regions and stuff like that, but essentially it caused kind of a stir, because essentially you've got this Chuck character that is like a god of thunder, that brings the rain and stuff like that, you know, very powerful and stuff like that. And what they kind of did was people on Facebook created a kind of a jokey sort of campaign to like raise this statue to the ground, essentially. Like get rid of it because it's going to anger the god Chuck, okay? Now, news reported it, okay? But the problem was that they cancelled the unveiling event for the Poseidon statue because so many people, whether or not they believed it to be true or not, or actually got the joke, signed up, I'm going to be there. We're going to take this fucking statue down for Chuck, for the frog god Chuck. We're going to do it. So, like, you know, he lives rent-free in people's minds up in that, like, region and stuff like that, which is interesting.
I can't wait for the kind of, like, when Chuck comes to the MCU. Although, did you know, it's a little bit of a side pivot, and then you can bring me straight back in.
Yeah.
Did you know there's a frog version of Thor in the comics called Frog? THOGG.
No, I did not. I do like where the Thor sort of comics go when it gets all like sci-fi and into space and stuff like that. I can't remember the guy that's like a horse, like a blue horse or whatever, that's also got like the powers of Thor. I can't remember. It's just some sort of like fucking horse alien, and he's just so badass.
Does he look a little bit like a dinosaur?
I don't know.
I'll have to come back. I know you mean.
Yeah.
The name might pop into my head. Though.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, whack a frog in every sort of thing. I've recently started playing Chrono Trigger again.
Yes.
And there's a little frog knight in that.
Yeah, he's great.
Fucking awesome. Yeah.
Best character in the game.
Yeah, definitely. Best lines, best sort of attacks and stuff like that. Yeah, it's a pretty sweet character. Yeah. But yeah, little frog knights, everyone loves them. Come on, you can't not like a frog knight.
Little frog knight is going to be the next game I develop. Telling you now.
Bit like Cat Quest, but like.
Oh, I love Cat Quest.
But like jumping around, as opposed to.
Oh, that would really work.
Yeah,
I think you've just made me £1 million idea.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that was Chuck. Hit
Chuck
me with
or Chuck? You're like, that's Chuck. You've already given me a nickname.
I mean, it's CHAAC. Okay. I'm saying Chuck.
Okay.
Yeah, but it could be Chuck.
But Chuck to his mates.
Yeah, Chuck to his mates. Chucky boy. Yeah. How's it going?
Chuckers.
So yeah, hit me with another fact about frogs if you can, mate.
Yeah. So, where am I at? So let's delve back. Well, actually, Would you like to see a diagram that people can't see?
Yeah, no one can see that.
So,
mate.
so what?
It is the most basic sort of science book for kids sort of thing, where you've got the life cycle of a frog.
All right, absolutely no need.
I'm trying to get it in their heads. It's the type of thing that's plastered on every like primary school science, biology.
Well, some of us weren't researchers. When this podcast is like hitting every single house, then I'll get a researcher to get me a better diagram. Yeah. But what I liked about this very old school scientific diagram is it really shows you the evolution of the frog
metamorphosis.
Cycle. Yes.
Yeah.
So you got the egg going into the embryo. And then slowly the tadpole, the early stages, comes into the late stages before you get to the adult frog. And you're slowly kind of growing out. And it's a nice little diagram.
Yeah.
What I like about this is everybody knows the stages of a frog.
Yeah.
Like it's always in the back of people's mind. And I think one of the reasons why frogs are used a lot, particularly if you look at fairy tales.
Yeah.
Brothers Grimm. Feature them all the time. What are the frogs usually in the original Brothers Grimm fairy tales? Do you know?
So you got the Frog Prince.
Yeah.
He wanted to be king or something like that, you know. So he has he tries it on with the princess, doesn't he? He does his frog riz.
He does do some frog riz. It'd work on you, that's for sure. And
kiss, I'll fucking suck your dick, mate.
Wait till you get a load of these lips, than this tongue. Quite often, frogs are gentle. It's about reproduction, fertility, and that's the same in fairy tales and folklore. Usually, frogs are not the villain.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like the reoccurring theme that comes up again and again. Amphibians are friends.
Yeah, yeah. But then in some stories, it's like it's like the idea that on the surface something is ugly, but then underneath you've got someone that is sort of like amazing for you, etc.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the same in sort of like Japanese like mythos and stuff like that, and that sort of thing. I believe, if I remember correctly, I didn't have a chance to really go into it, that sort of stuff. I kind of want to like. There's got to be quite a lot of sort of like frog fables around like yokai and stuff like that, probably.
Yes.
Yeah, that sort of stuff.
I didn't quite get there today.
No, yeah. With this is Frogs 1. We'll probably have like another Frogs episode at some point in time.
And you could do frogs in the East.
Yeah.
You could do a whole episode about frogs in the East. Like, yeah. And really that's all of things, right? You could do a whole Western part and a whole Eastern part.
Yeah, and like, for example, like dragons in the West and dragons in the East, completely different characters, completely.
Both scary boys.
Yeah, but like one's
different.
imparting wisdom and stuff. It's something to admire and sort of like rule
like,
benevolently and stuff.
Some have Dragon Balls, some don't.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think like frogs have frog balls?
I was gonna ask you, like I didn't do my research into frog sex, okay? But like, is it like fish? Did the man just come over and?
I'm going to be honest with you. I also didn't look at how they get jiggied out.
Yeah.
Because I assumed with all your freaky little frog, like
that I would know.
That you'd be like,
I've got a series of videos.
Let's talk about sex and go all ASMR, and you come right up to the mic.
So yeah, like I've seen quite a lot of frogs sort of like mounting female frogs. So I just assumed that like he does it inside and then she just lets them all go.
There was a little comment on Hell Comes to Frogtown about the big boy frog having like three
snakes, willies.
I wonder if that's the case for actual adult frogs. I've never flipped one upside down and had a look. So for all I know, they could be none, they could be 3, they could be 10.
Yeah, I mean, like when they're hopping about, they don't have like a big schlong just sort of like flopping about, does it? It's if it's got one, it's going inside.
But most animals do have their package kind of away, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah,
it's like
it's convenient because they don't wear trousers,
and it's pretty weird for us to be like tallywhackers out.
It is pretty weird. Yeah, you can get arrested.
You can. And that's probably why they're like, the other animals don't get away with it. Come on.
Yeah.
Put some clothes on.
Yeah, it would be a bit rubbish if our police force was like arresting frogs. Like, you're naked, you're not wearing trousers, mate. Yeah. Get in the back of my van.
How dare you? No, I won't say that. I was about to go very weird.
No, I think the police force is stretched a bit thin at this point in time. They can't really just start.
And there's 7,000 different species of those bad boys. They never stop.
Prison cells, like, do you know what I mean? Like, there's not enough of them. Anyway, okay, so ever heard of the common wood frog?
Yes.
And its ability to cryogenically freeze itself?
No.
So, unlike most creatures where freezing is a death sentence, wood frogs undergo a controlled freezing process. So, ice crystals form in their extracellular spaces and the areas between cells. And to protect their internal organs, water is drawn out of the cells and converted into ice in these extracellular spaces. And this prevents the cells themselves from freezing and rupturing. So essentially, they've got like this sort of like natural antifreeze sort of going on. Their body produces high concentrations of glucose and urea, acting as a cryoprotectant or natural antifreeze. How interesting is that?
That is, and it also makes sense why when cryogenics is mentioned, there's usually a frog in the scene.
Absolutely. Have you ever seen frogs fight?
I have not seen frogs
It's the
fight.
cutest thing ever.
The cutest thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
So do you like them or do you not? Now I'm confused.
No. But like, if you see them and they're just like if you, it's interesting because like if you were to see frogs fight, but at their perspective, it would be like it'd be like sort of all anime and it'd be so intense. It'd be like this
cut.
Yeah, like the Star Trek music. Yeah, but you see it as this big giant human, and it's just like it's two frogs just sort of jumping and slapping at each other. You know? And it's like the cutest thing ever. It's, oh, look at them, they're dancing. No, I suppose that's fighting. I suppose that is.
So funny because it's the polar opposite to giraffes. Giraffes are so cute. Have you ever seen them go at each other?
Yeah.
Terrifying.
Like a bludgeoning club.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
Like it's like the movement of a trebuchet. Or something, you know. Really interesting. But yeah, like I just love that idea. Like frogs are so territorial. Like literally all they will fucking do, just like those little Tweety birds in the morning that you hear, they've got, this is my square foot space. Yeah. If any of you fucking male frogs come into my fucking gaff,
I'm jumping and slapping. Probably at the same time.
That's it. Yeah. I mean, like, that's all they do, and also like
fucking fight. They just fucking fight.
They fucking fight, yeah. Like they're living the dream. They are full like toxic masculine dream.
Yeah.
Fucking fighting.
They've just got to get a podcast, and they're done, aren't they?
Yeah, and some of them, because we were talking about poisons and stuff like that, some of them are actually toxic frogs, aren't they? You know. Yeah. And like that big fact is the whole idea of, you know, a little pipette or something like that of frog poison can take down like 100 men or something like that. And it's mental, isn't it? And they're the really colourful ones as well.
Yeah, the ones that you're like, oh, that's cute, and then dead.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like you can probably understand why we've got this sort of fascination with frogs at the heart of it. You know, whether it's going into good things or bad things and things like that. It's just, you know, as a species, what is there not to love?
Well, I remember I was about 15, and I came out of my house, and there was it'd been torrential rain for like a couple of weeks. It was like one of the worst kind of torrential rains that we had. It was in the summer. It was all over the place, and this little frog boy kind of came out and looked like it was hurt, and I remember just really wanting to like protect it.
Yeah.
And I was having a conversation with somebody else, and I was like, well, yeah, of course you wanted to like save the frog, and this is somebody who would like swat a fly and, you know, really care about nature, but there's something in us that wants to protect the frog. And like most people, like, oh, I'm not really into animals. I like frogs though. There's something psychologically that we like frogs.
Yeah.
Like, they might not be the cutest of things, but there's something about them. We're like, they're our guys.
Absolutely. But like one thing I like about frogs is that whole idea of it's part of our learning of biology. You know, like everyone's got a story about finding frog spawn and finding the little frogs crawling out and sort of like making their way and stuff like that. Like even like you see less of it now. Like it used to be that you'd be able to go to the forest or something like that, and there'd always be a bit of frog, like the little frogs like knocking around and stuff. And now it's I think it's like it's less and less you can see that sort of stuff. But even my kids, if they go on a camping holiday, like there's a good chance that they'll come across some frogs. You know, and yeah, it's fun. You know, it's a magical experience, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's like delve deeper into sort of like mythology and stuff like that. So I've got this other like thing to essentially talk about is the idea that you've got in the Book of Revelations, part of the trials that John on the island of Patmos, I think, or something like that, when he's having all of these weird visions and stuff like that, he sees these characters, these people that resemble politicians and other such things, like people of influence, like religious leaders, politicians and stuff like that. They're vomiting frogs.
Yeah.
And so there's a symbolism there. What does that symbolism mean? What are we essentially saying? Yeah? And it's like untruths and falsehoods and stuff like that is essentially it. And there's some real interesting sort of like pictures of these sort of characters like vomiting frogs, etc. You know, and there's loads and loads of ways in which you can interpret that. Like, if anyone doesn't realize, Revelations is the end times. It's like Armageddon, like, you know, the end of the world, the rapture and stuff like that. What's the sort of things that's going to be happening? And yeah, you've got these sort of like prominent figures in the world at that time vomiting frogs and shit. It's quite interesting. I like that sort of aspect of it. I wanted to create like a story around the sort of like a literal interpretation of like that, and I kind of wanted to take it in a different like place and essentially say that like, okay, if the end of the world's coming, we could actually incorporate with all of this interesting Christian mythos frog characters that are kind of like these sort of like, what's the word, nefarious sort of like usurpers or something like that, like, you know, just sort of villains of a story. It'd be quite interesting, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, you also you've got a game idea, haven't you?
I have a manga idea.
Oh, you have a manga idea. That's what you were going to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on.
I mean, it's very long, so I'm not actually going to
give us a quick summary.
But I'll give you a quick summary. It's an isekai. For those of you that don't know, it's where somebody has died in our realm and then goes to a fantasy world and is reborn.
Okay.
They come back as a frog spawn.
Yeah.
And they basically evolve. And it's like a classic sort of manga where they can choose their evolution path. Kind of like, it's pretty much, so what, I'm a spider.
Yeah.
But as a frog.
Okay. And then that's a different manga.
And that's a manhwa.
Okay. You're going to have to explain all of this.
Coloured manga.
Oh, okay, right. Okay.
Yeah, typically from Korea.
Yeah, all right, okay.
And they're typically from kind of like books, and then they're made as manhwas.
Okay.
But it's a really popular one, so I'm a spider. And it's basically that, but as a frog, using all like the kind of frog and stuff, and he evolves, and like later on he becomes like a dragon lord.
Nice.
And there's loads of stuff with it, but it's just like my love of that kind of genre and how ridiculous it is and how overpowered he becomes as a dragon lord. But he starts as a frog, and he uses all those frog-like amphibian things to like best his opponents.
Yeah, cool.
There's a lot of like tying people up with his tongue and poison and jumping around caves and.
So in the one that you compared it to, does the story kind of like play out where he's evolving and he's picking up different traits of a spider?
She,
okay. Yeah.
is evolving. Starts as like the smallest spider,
yeah,
and then becomes like an arachnid overlord by the end of the.
Does it get into like delve into detail? Like, for example, if I pick this evolutionary tier, I can fly
a little bit, but not as much as I wanted.
Yeah,
I want to get to the weeds.
Yeah,
yeah. But yeah, so that was like, as I was reading this manga, I was like, this would be so cool if it was a frog. And there's so many other things you could do. You could go down the Drakel route as well when they start walking, and I started to expand the world and what it would look like.
Yeah.
And like, basically, here's a really cool idea. Here's how I think it'd be better with frogs. Which isn't the first time.
Yeah.
As you know, I'm an amateur game maker.
Yeah.
Like I
Designer,
make games in my spare time. And I think every game I've ever made, particularly the 2D pixel ones, there's a frog character.
Yeah.
Because they're just so endearing. And in my latest one, which is about a boxer taking on space aliens, there is a frog boxer who leaps on you and just goes ham. And that's his move.
Yeah. I mean, like a frog's punch. Like how like powerful is that?
Well, it's just little slapping it, but imagine someone leaping onto your shoulders and just slapping the shit out of you.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it's strong, they're just like...
Cool. Okay, all right. Now, I've got a few sort of like small frog facts for you. I'm just going to throw some out for you, all right?
Go. Yeah,
okay.
Ready.
Okay, so the golden poison frog is the most poisonous frog in the world. Even though it's small, its toxin can kill 10 humans.
Oh.
Frog sleeps with their eyes open.
Oh, I knew that one.
Male frogs pee standing up.
Yeah, this is like boom, boom, boom.
A frog's eyes and nose are on the very top of their heads.
Yeah.
And a frog completely sheds its skin about once a week. Did you enjoy all those facts?
That was amazing, so much so that we should timestamp that and be like, don't worry about the rest of the episode. This is where those 4 facts are just going to come at you thick and fast.
And you have no problem with those facts at all?
Are you going to tell me they're not real?
No. Like, did any of them stand out to be a bit odd?
I mean, give me them again.
Okay, so poison frog can kill 10 humans. A frog sleeps with its eye open. Yeah. Male frogs pee standing up. And a frog's eyes and nose are at the very top of their heads. And they completely shed their skin in about once a week.
Male frog standing up. Did you make that up?
I did. I did. And I'm surprised. All right, Tom. What did they do? Did they also unzip their fly? What are you thinking? Tom?
So now you're going to start throwing in some falsehoods just to see if I'm listening. Is that what you're saying?
That's it. Like the book of Revelation. Yeah.
Was that a lie too?
No, that was definitely true. Everything else I've said was completely true.
Okay.
Are we going to talk about Pepe the Frog?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, like, the thing is, like,
Is half of your notes Pepe the Frog?
No, I'm not going to go into a whole thing, but I just thought it would be, like, important to, like, at least put that out there, because that was, like, an interesting sort of cultural thing.
Well, it was a real shift, right, in internet culture becoming mainstream.
Yeah. So, if anyone doesn't realise, we're talking about Pepe the Frog, he was prominent in, like, alt-right political memes for a long period of time, and it was a
huge meme, wasn't it?
Huge meme. But do you see it a lot now?
Every now and again, when I'm delving into like I call it the internet old world.
Yeah.
Not too much within. I mean, when you search up memes and like meme history and stuff, it's always there.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't necessarily say it's actively in any of my feeds.
I mean, at this point in time, an organisation called the Anti-Defamation League designated it a hate symbol, and that's all the way back in 2016.
Oh wow!
I think people are perhaps a little bit more cautious, maybe, of using that. But if I was to go on 4chan or something like that, it's probably everywhere, isn't it? Yeah, it's in the flag, that sort of thing. But yeah, like just the origins of Pepe the Frog is quite interesting. So Matt Furious. I hope I'm saying the name right. Is that right?
What name?
Matt Fury. Sorry about that. Matt Fury. So he essentially created the character alongside a number of other, creatures, anthropomorphic creatures in his...
Was it a webcomic? It feels like a webcomic.
It was a webcomic, yeah. But it's like a MySpace era webcomic, yeah. It's called The Boys Club, okay? And if you actually, like, read The Boys Club and these, like, little comics and stuff like that, they are so basic and innocuous. Like, literally, it's like, hey, like, it's like a frog playing a computer game, and then his friend comes over that's a bird or something like that, and he's like, hey, smell this, and he rips a fart, and then, like, the bird is sick or something. Like, literally, like, on my on my notes here, I've just got like a little screenshot of one of those comics, and it's basically referencing the infamous Two Girls One Cup video.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And basically it's like, hey, look at this, and he goes, what is this? It's two hots, one cot, is what he ends up saying instead. And the guy and the Pepe the Frog watches it, and he's like, oh my god, that's disgusting, and then vomits. And then the joke is, you just barfed out loud. Instead of laughed out loud, barfed out loud. Yeah. That's how basic the Boys Club and Pepe the Frog is. It's got nothing to do with like hate speech or anything like that. And
it's just stupid, crude humour that's barely disguised as humour.
Yeah. But like the thing is, like things like the Anti-Defamation League and stuff like that, like making it a hate speech symbol, it just fuels people, chaos agents, to just sort of use that to like troll the libs.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's just so strange how like one part of that argument has zero sort of self-awareness, and like you're basically just like
you're popularizing it.
You're popularizing it, and you're feeding the trolls, aren't you? By basically like saying, oh no, you can't possibly use that frog symbol. It's a symbol of hate, and they're all just like laughing.
Like, guys, it's a stupid frog.
I know.
You want it?
I'll
give you it.
I know. Yeah. But like, it's interesting because like we were talking about like Egyptian gods and stuff like that, and one thing that ended up coming out of it was this idea that he was a symbol for this new religion forming around the god of like darkness and chaos of Egypt called Kek.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you've come across the term Kek, etc. Because it's very much associated with Pepe the Frog and all of that momentum around it and stuff like that. It's like we talked previously on like that Metamodern episode about the idea of birds aren't real.
Yeah.
It's very much like that. It's the idea of like you're creating a new state called Kekistan, and Pepe the Frog is on the flag of it, you know, and you've got all of that. But the idea of Kek actually came through the chat servers of World of Warcraft, where essentially you can't see what other people are writing on that chat if you're not in the same team as them. Okay, and so what happens is your words and stuff like that get changed into other words. So, for example, lol, which everyone would be writing lol, would be turned into kek, K-E-K.
Yeah.
And so that kind of like is where that idea of kek came from, and people are writing lol when they're writing kek. Yeah,
I see.
And then that's kind of like been co-opted and just added to, hey, there's a god called Kek, and he's also the bringer of chaos and stuff like that, and so we're adding that in. So like, don't worry everyone, there wasn't actually like a cult of Kek around Pepe. It was just little boys acting like little boys and doing silly things on the internet. Yeah. And if you got upset with it, you got upset with it, little boys that were just trolling you.
That probably enjoyed that.
Yeah, absolutely.
The chaos and the discourse of it.
Like, it's just like, let's bring chaos. Unfortunately though, what then ends up happening is people like vote with this same sort of mindset of trolling the libs and stuff like that. And that's probably where we're in this sort of situation where, you know, like all sorts of chaos is happening.
We are in a state of change.
Yeah. So here's a mantra that was created for the followers of Kek. That's in Pepe the Frog Kek. Yep. Our Kek, who art in memetics, hallowed be thy memes, thy Trumpton come, thy will be done in life as it is on /poll /. Give us this day our daily dubs, and forgive us of our baiting as we forgive those who bait against us, and lead us not into cuckoldry, but deliver us from shills, for thine is the memetic kingdom, and the shitposting and the winning forever and ever, praise Kek.
I mean, how can you take that seriously?
How can you take that seriously?
How can you be like, that's hate speech? It is like little boys with too much time on their hands.
Absolutely. But yeah, in there is it kind of like dates it as well, is the idea of winning. That just reminds me of Charlie Sheen, Tiger Blood, winning.
Oh yeah, like that's very much within that kind of like 2010s kind of era, isn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, that's Pepe the Frog, who's been like, a cultural icon, like it or not. I just wanted to finish off just with like one other little interesting story that allows us to sort of segue into our next topic. So there is a Greek playwright called Aristophanes, a very popular one. He created a play called The Frogs. Okay?
Okay.
And in The Frogs, the god of, I guess, quite a lot of things, amongst like the god of like fun and partying down and stuff like that, Dionysus.
With a bit of dino.
Yeah, Dino went down to the underworld in this story. Yeah, and it is a comical story. So Dionysus is accompanied in this foray into the underworld where he is, and this is very meta, he is trying to save another Greek playwright who's now died. Yeah, so he's recently died, and so Aristophanes goes like, let's get a god to get that guy back. So it's kind of like if, I don't know, give me two like comedy writers that we've got now. Like,
let's go like Strong and Miller.
Yeah, so it would be like if Armstrong and Miller went down to the underworld to find and rescue, or they wrote a play where a god goes down and rescues
To rescue Mitchell and Webb.
Mitchell and Webb, or like Spike Jones, or someone like that who's dead. You know what I mean? Like that's the level of it is, but it's like in Greek antiquity. It's an interesting sort of thing. Writing about writing, that sort of thing. But yeah, like I mention this because it features frogs, okay? But it only very briefly features frogs, okay? When he's going into the underworld to rescue this playwright, whilst he's like travelling across the river Styx, I believe, he is beset by a chorus of frogs who are sort of like sending jeers and jibes and things like that. But it's just like quack, 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 quack,
And the whole thing's called The Frogs.
And it's literally just that. And like, so you've got a comedic scene where he is sort of like sending some jibes back. Fuck off, you stupid frogs. And it's a god. Do you know what I mean? It's a really interesting sort of like way. Like, if you don't delve deep into like Greek like plays and things like that, you won't be able to like mine the comedy there. There's some interesting sort of elements there.
So he got the people in because it was frogs. So basically he did what indie films do now.
Yeah.
He hired a notable face to come in and do a line.
Yeah.
So he got the frogs in. He was like, yeah, you'll have a big part. Coming, and then people are like, this is about frogs.
Yeah.
And they get in and they get a comedy about playmates.
Absolutely. And the thing is, like, during his journey, Dionysus is helped by his slave Xanthias. Okay.
Xanthias a frog?
No, Xanthias is not a frog. He's just a slave who's essentially just doing the bidding of Dionysus. He's basically his Frankenstein to his Igor. Yeah. Or Igor to his Frankenstein. But what I found interesting was the idea that if you were to listen to what they ended up saying, and my notes are really kind of like messed up here. I don't actually have the full lyrics here, but like the starting passage is essentially it's a back and forth between Dionysus and Xanthias, where Xanthias is essentially saying in a fourth wall breaking kind of way, "Shall I mention some fart jokes for the audience's sake?" And Dionysus is like, "Oh no, not for us. We're not doing that sort of thing." And it's a back and forth. It's like he says, one starts talking about a bellyache, and I've got to unburden myself. And when he's saying unburden, he's talking about he needs to shit.
I got that.
Yeah.
He didn't need to.
Yeah. And Dionysus is like, "Oh, leave that for other playwrights." It's like, if I listen to their playwrights, I age 12 years. It's like little jibes like that.
So he's like, this is the good shit.
Yeah.
Like, this is the cream of writing. You're not gonna do your silly jokes. You've had your little frog chorus. Now you're gonna get real writing.
But like the way in which they're talking about the jokes and stuff like that, and Dionysus is basically saying like, "Oh, things like, oh, don't make me vomit," sort of thing like that. It's in that sort of diatribe. Yeah, it just reminded me of Blackadder and Baldric, and it was literally very similar. If you listen to them in that way or read them in that way, literally you can hear their voices. Like Dionysus, Blackadder, Baldric, Xanthias. Yeah. Really interesting. So yeah, what are we going to be talking about next week?
So we are going to go on to the film Mad God.
Yeah.
And then through Mad God, we're going to explore some underworld themes.
Absolutely. So we're going to be delving into the underworld, much like Dionysus did with Xanthias in the play The Frogs. So yeah, we are going to be looking at the Mad God, and we are going to be also, doing as you said. What is the Mad God, though?
So it is a passion project by Phil Tippett. You might recognise the name if you're into filmmaking. He's very prominent in terms of stop motion and visual effects. And he kind of had an idea in the 80s for a film, and it's really interesting story. It eventually got released in 2021 due to Kickstarter, and the end result is super interesting, and I'm really looking forward to talking about the whole process.
Nice. Okay, all right, so that is us, and we'll see you next week.
Enjoy your little cheesecake thing, because I know it's your favourite.
Oh, thank you. Shall I just eat it all here?
Crunch it into the mic aggressively. Oh, that is disgusting. No, he genuinely did just spit that all over the place.